Welcome to Java EE6 programming course. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, this course assumes you have some knowledge on Java EE5. Same thing for JPA 2.0. So, by the way, I have actually separated out some of the features that I cover in JPA 2.0 into the second presentation. So we're going to actually cover criteria and the locking features next week. Okay, so I found that there is just too much content to cover in one single hour. So now we have two sessions on JPA 2.0. By the way, as I mentioned before, we are going to cover just the incremental features added in JPA 2.0 in this course, which means that I assume you have knowledge on JPA 1.0. So for those of you who are learning JPA for the first time, I recommend you to go to Hibernate JPA EJB 3.0 and JMS course here. And then you're going to see a lot of JPA basics topics covered in this course. JPA basics, mapping 1, mapping 2, JPQL and JPA advanced and transactions. So I strongly recommend you to take a look at these contents along with the JPA 2.0. All right, so let's move on with the presentation. So JPA 2.0 added richer mapping features and richer JPQL and caching API and criteria API and pessimistic locking in addition to the optimistic locking. So these two features will be covered in JPA 2.02 presentation next week. Okay. Again, as I mentioned before, this presentation assumes you have JPA 1.0 knowledge. So if you compare JPA 1.0 and JPA 2.0, JPA 1.0 was part of the EJB 3.0 specification, GSR 220, and a major feature of that is standardization of all mapping, and it actually uses the annotation for ease of development. So JPA really actually simplified the OL mapping features of a Java EE platform. And before that, everybody was using Hibernate. Now, JPA really provides the comparable features to Hibernate, as well as the standard annotation-based APIs. And JPA 1.0 also supports Java SE and Java EE platform, which means the single APIs can be used on both applications types. And it provides a pluggable persistent provider, so you don't have to actually stuck with a persistent provider that comes with application server anymore from JPA 1.0. You can just choose a persistent provider, and the way that you choose a persistent provider is specifying it in persistence.xml file. Now in JPA 2.0, specification is released in 2009, December, and it is in fact a separate specification from EJB, so it's not tied up with EJB anymore. And it does improve JPA 1.0 a lot in many respects. So that's what we are going to cover today and next week. So let's talk about the richer mapping features added in JPA 2.0. So it supports collection of basic types and embeddables. And in JPA 1.0, collection of entities was supported only. Okay? So when you happen to have a collection, it has to be entities in JPA 1.0. In JPA 2.0, it could be basic types or it could be embeddables. And of course, it could be entities as well. And it does support the multiple levels of embeddables. Embeddables could actually include another embeddables. And embeddables containing collection of embeddables and basic types. And also the order column is also supported. And primary key can be derived entities and richer map support. So we are going to actually talk about each of these in a bit more detail using examples. So if you don't understand what I just talked about on this slide, don't worry about it. All right, so this is an example of collection of basic types. So in order to have a collection of basic types, in this case, basic type is a string. Okay, so in JPA 1.0, typically it has to be entity class. Here, this is the basic type, in this case, string type. And then you can use a collection of basic types using this annotation at element collection. So this is newly introduced annotation in JPA 2.0. Now, the table that gets constructed is going to be named as name of the parent class and then the name of the field. So it's going to be item underscore tax. That's the default table name, that table name that gets created. Now, if you want to have a different name, then you can use add collection table, and then you can specify the name you want. So in this case, the name of the table that gets created is going to be tax, as specified here. All right, so let's do our first exercise. Yeah, so just to let you know, yeah, so I'm going to just move ahead. I was going to actually show you JPA 1.0 hands-on labs, what kind of features that we cover, but I'm going to just move ahead here. All right, so first you have to set up, so you have to start the Java DB database server. So that's the database server that we are using in this the hands-on lab, but you can use MySQL or any other database server. But the sample applications are built with the assumption that you're using Java DB database server. So easiest way that that you can start the Java DB server is from the NetBeans. So we're going to actually select the a server and then a service tab and Java DB and start server. And I have already started it, so it's already started it. Okay. And you can start manually on the command line. So you can go to Java DB bin directory and then you set the a Java DB Derby home environment variable with this bat file, and then you can start the Java DB server. Okay, and in this exercise, in this actually hands-on lab, we are using a new database called the TestDB JPA2. Okay, so you can create that database by right-clicking Java DB server and then select Create Database, and then you're going to name it TestDB JPA2, and the username and password is APP. Okay. You can also use the IJ, the interactive Java DB to create the database as well. But again, the NetBeans is pretty convenient to do that. So I have already created TestDB JPA already here. Okay. All right. So let's do the exercise 1. Exercise 1, we are going to try the collection of basic types, collection of embeddables, and the multi-level embeddables, and embeddable with relations. So these are all new features added in JPA 2.0. So let's run the mapping collection basic types Maven project first, and then I'm going to explain the code. Because all sample applications are Maven project, you can use any IDE of your choice. Here, I'm going to actually use the Eclipse IDE. Okay, so the one that I'm going to run first is collection of basic types. So let me just run the code. And main class is in my package. And what you see is the name of the table employee. So we have the employees, 6 employees, and then we have expertise. So this is employee ID. So employee 1 has these 2 Java skills, and the employee 6 has these 4 Java skills. Okay. All right, now let me explain the code. So I'm going to use the hands-on lab documentation to explain the code. All right, so basically this is the employee class. So this is a parent class. So in order to have a collection of basic types, so in this case, we have a set of strings, which is a Java skills. And we name the table as expertise. Okay, so that's the reason we have the name of the table is expertise. Okay, and this is element collection. So we are using element collection to indicate that this employee object has a set of the strings, and then we use collection table annotation to customize the name of the table. Okay, so that's what you see. And this is a persistence.xml file. So we have employee class. okay, because that's the entity class. And then we have these properties. Okay. So right now we are using test DB JPA2. So if you want to use a different, database, then you can change this. Okay. And this is a main.xml, a main.java file in which we are going to create the test data. So here we create employee object, initializing with name and the salary. And then we have created Java skills set, hash set object. And then we are adding several skills to Java skills set. And then we are going to set this Java skill set into employee object. Okay. And then we created the second employee. Okay. And then we created the other employees. Okay. These employees do not have the skill set initialized. So we have only 2 employees that have a skill set. That's the reason we have the expertise. We have only 1 and 6. Okay. All right, so that is exercise 1. This employee service is basically a utility class that we use in the test main code to create the employee. So nothing really important. 1.2 is collection of embeddables. So let's try to run this guy. Collection of embeddables. Okay, so here we have employee table. Again, we have employee ID, name, and salary. And then we have vacations home table. And this vacation table has this is actually embeddables. Okay, so this is the you have a street, state, city, and employee ID here. Okay, so let's take a look at the okay, good. It's recording. All right, so let's take a look at this code. So here you can see we have used the element collection, and then we are using collection table to specify the name of the table. Now here, instead of just basic type, we have address class, which is embeddable class. So if you take a look at the address, so this is annotated with embeddable. Okay. All right, so that is embeddable case. Yeah, again, the concept of embeddable has been discussed in JPA 1.0 course, so I recommend you to take a look at that. This is a main class. Basically, we are just creating hash set with the address, the type. All right, the next one is multi-level embeddable. So in this case, embeddable can have another embeddable as a child class. Okay. So in this case, we have the contact info embeddable has address embeddable as an attribute. Okay, so let's run this code. My apologies, seems like a network is unstable, so you lose my voice once in a while. Okay, so let's run this application. And so here we have employee and expertise, and then we have a vacation homes. Okay, so embeddable multi-levels. Oh, so this is basically to indicate the when you have multi-level embeddables, all the fields of those embeddable classes will be actually maintained, will be actually in the in here, okay, in the employee class. Okay, so email, street. So this is actually email is from the contact info, the embeddable class, and the contact info embeddable class has address as embeddable class. So that's the reason you're actually seeing this one right here as well. Okay, so let's actually take a look at the code. So again, here we have employee class that has a contact info as as an attribute. And if you take a look at the embeddable, contact info class is embeddable class. Okay, and then it also includes address as an attribute. And if you take a look at the attribute, you can see it's embeddable class as well. So multi-level embeddable is also supported in JPA 2.0. All right, the last one is embeddable with its own relationship. So let's run let me actually show the code, then I'm gonna actually run it. So in this case, we have the employee has the contact info as we have seen before. And now contact info is embeddable class. And now contact info has a set of phones. So it has one-to-many relationship with phone class as well. And phone class is entity class. Okay. So let's run this application. And here we have employee, and then we have a phone table. Okay, and the contact info embeddable is specified, is actually in in employee class. Okay, so any fields in embeddable class should be in its parent table, employee. Okay, and this phone table is the relationship, has a one-to-many relationship with contact info embeddable class. Yeah, looks like I'm still having some issues with the network. Hopefully, yeah, I'm going to post the recording to the public area, so you should be able to listen in later on. All right, so let's move on to the next one. Next one is order column mapping. Now, hold a second, start the recording again. So next, the rich mapping feature is order column, right? So order column can be used to define order list of any collection mapping through order column annotation, or you can use the order column XML element. So the table for order column depends on the mapping. So it could be element collection mapping. In that case, it's going to be in the target table. For one-to-many mapping, it will be target table. For many-to-mapping or one-to-mapping with a join table, it's going to be in join table. Okay, so I'm going to actually show you what I mean by this one using an example in a second. So don't worry if you don't understand what I said. Hold a second. Okay, so let me continue again. All right, so let's do exercise 2. This is order mapping. So we are going to try order mapping with the collection of basic type using element collection. And then we are going to try one-to-many mapping relationship with a foreign key. And the third is one-to-many mapping relationship with a join table. Now, we have to actually delete the phone table first. Otherwise, what you're going to actually experience is some errors. So let me show you what I mean by that. So element collection, if you run it, oh, this one is okay. Yeah. So basically, we have phone and in. So this is actually index is being created for the order list for any employee number one. The it has a collection of phones, and then we could have an index. So this is employee number two, and then we have order list of 0 and 1. So if you take a look at the code. So this is a way that you can specify index. So, basically any the list of items for the in this case is phone strings. So this is a basic type. That's the reason we are using element collection. And here you specify order column with the name of index. So the name of the column is going to be index, and the name of the table in this case is a phone table. Okay. And so that's the reason you see on the phone table, you are going to see this index. So this is the target table that we are talking about. And this is a main code that created the test data. The next one is one-to-many relationship with a foreign key. So when you have a one-to-many relationship,